What's going on YouTube? It's your man Soul here. Welcome back to the channel. You know what it is when you clicked it. Today we are doing the Arcane Mage talent build setup for Wrath of the Lich King Classic, patch 335. So without further ado, let's jump on in. First things first, I do want to say thank you to all of the new subscribers and those who have been just viewing the videos and commenting. I love to see my community grow, and you guys have been really contributing to it, and I really want to thank you. But let's get right to the shit. So to kick things off, we have the standard build of 57,311 arcane spec. This build is going to get you through the majority, if not all, of Wrath. There are two other specs that I outlined in the video, and they have timestamps for them, so if you want to jump ahead and take a look at them, you're more than welcome to. However, again, the central focus is going to be on the standard build, so let's jump ahead and look at these talents. First things first, we get 2 out of 2 Arcane Subtlety. This is going to reduce the chance that your helpful spells and damage over time effects are dispelled by 30%, and it's going to reduce the threat caused by arcane spells by 40%. I think the threat reduction is really important because Arcane tends to be a high octane spec, so you can land a string of crits or just do a high burst damage in a short amount of time, and if your tank isn't ready, you could pull something, or if you start attacking a new mob, you could pull it. So I think Arcane Subtlety is definitely worth it. Next, we have Arcane Focus, increases your chance to hit and reduces the mana cost of arcane spells by 3%. Pretty straightforward. We love both of those things. Take this. Moving on. We have Arcane Stability. This is going to reduce pushback suffer from damaging attacks by 100% while casting Arcane Missiles and Arcane Blast. I do want to note about this talent that if you have access to a Holy Paladin with improved concentration aura, then you don't have to max this talent out. You can instead go for 3 out of 5, get the rest of the pushback from the improved CA, and then allocate these 2 talent points elsewhere. Arcane has some pretty useful optional talents that you could take, so this isn't a bad thing. Even if you don't have access to improved CA, you don't need to max out Arcane Stability. I do, just because I like to cover all bases and make sure that I'm not having any spell pushback. But even with regular CA, you're still getting 95% spell pushback, which some people might think, the 5% pushback effect is worth it for the 2 talent points extra to other places. Again, that's your option, your choice to make. I think I'm going to just max out Arcane Stability. Moving on down, we have Arcane Concentration. Gives you a 10% chance to enter the clear casting state. The clear casting state is the next spell that you cast that's damage, is cost no mana, so Arcane loves that, so definitely want to take Arcane Concentration. Moving on down, we have one of my favorite talents, which is Focus Magic. Increases the target's chance to critically hit with spells by 3%, and when the target critically hits, the caster's chance to critically hit with spells is increased by 3%. So again, this only works on spells, and you can only place the Focus Magic buff on one person, so make sure you put it on somebody who gets consistent crits, like a Resto Shaman, another Arcane Mage, a Fire Mage, a Boomkin, whatever have you. So definitely want to put Focus Magic out there. It's a really good buff to upkeep, and make sure you put it on somebody worthwhile. Next, we have Spell Impact. This is going to increase the damage of your Arcane Explosion, Arcane Blast by 6%, along with a few other spells, but we only care about Arcane Explosion and Arcane Blast. A flat 6% damage increase ain't bad, so definitely want to take that. And I'm going to outline Torment here, or Torment the Week I should call it, not just Torment, but I'm going to outline Torment the Week because I want to talk about the other couple of talents in more detail. But Torment the Week. So basically you do 12% more damage to snared or slow targets with the spells listed. So this allows you to nuke high priority mobs down a little bit quicker if they're able to be controlled. So you can definitely get behind this talent, because I'm pretty sure there's going to be a lot of mobs or a lot of ads that get spawned that are going to be hunter trapped or, just slow that you can just nuke down. So definitely get Torment the Week. Now, these next 3 talents, you can allocate these talent points in various ways. I choose to put them in 1 in Arcane Meditation, 2 in Magic Attunement, and skip out on Student of the Mind. But let's go through the talents and see what they do. So Arcane Meditation. With 1 talent point, allows 17% of your mana regen to continue while casting. When you have 3 talent points, this turns into 50. This is really good in my opinion for like newer mages that may be still getting used to burning their mana, regenerating their mana, so on and so forth. Like, having more mana regen is never a bad thing, and it can soften the blow on the learning curve. So I like Arcane Meditation. Next, we have Student of the Mind. This is going to increase your total spirit by 4% with 1 talent point, or 10% when maxed out. You might be thinking to yourself, why does Mage haven't increased his spirit? Well, 1,
Spirit is probably going to be on some of your gear at some point, so you're going to have Spirit on some gear. Like some pre-raid bis has Spirit, some phase 1 raid bis has Spirit, so you're going to have Spirit. And 2, because of the change of Molten Armor. So Molten Armor no longer increases your critical strike chance by a flat 3%. Now what it does is, when I pull it up, increases your critical strike rating by 35% of your spirit. So 35% of the spirit that you have on your gear will be converted to critical strike, and that's obviously increased if you have Student of the Mind, increasing your total spirit by 10% if you choose to max it out. So it just converts more spirit from actually being spirit to a really good secondary stat and not a dead stat kind of. So really good talent. And last but not least, we have Magic Attunement. So increases the range of your arcane spells by 6 yards and increases the effect of your amplify magic and dampen magic by 50%. I'm going to clear this out really quickly. So really you care about this talent for the former and not the latter. The increase to arcane spells by 6 yards is pretty important because it allows you to stay in position for a lot longer, which means you don't have to move, which means you can continue casting your arcane blast or your arcane missiles. And the reciprocal of that is it allows you to get into position quicker if you're moving out of a mechanic or you're moving out of something that's on the ground that's killing you. It allows you to get into position a little bit quicker so you can start damage faster. So I like Magic Attunement. I think the 6 yard increase kind of gets slept on because it's not like Student of the Mind where it's just converting spirit to crit, but increasing your range and your abilities can be looked at as a damage increase in my opinion. But I like Magic Attunement. But again, for these 3 talents, you can choose to put these 3 talent points anywhere. Another callback to Arcane Stability, that if you are using Improved Concentration Aura or just regular Concentration Aura, if you just opt to go 3 out of 5, you can then put the 2 talent points that you still have in reserve and improve your utility or sustainability even further by putting now 2 into Student of the Mind or the last 2 into Arcane Meditation. So again, whatever have you, it's completely up to you. It's your choice, your preference. Alright, moving on down the tree, we have Arcane Mind. This is going to increase your total intellect by 15%. Pretty self-explanatory. We love intellect, definitely take this talent. Next, we have Presence of Mind, which is one of the staples in the Arcane tree. When activated, your next mage spell with a casting time of less than 10 seconds becomes an instant cast spell. So if you ever heard of the infamous Palm Pyro combo, Palm standing for P-O-M, it comes from Presence of Mind. Even without Pyroblast, though, Presence of Mind is a really important talent, especially because of the next talent that we're going to outline, and that's the Arcane Potency talent. So increases the critical strike chance of your next damaging spell by 30% after gaining clear casting or Presence of Mind. So if you choose to use Presence of Mind as your opener, your first Arcane Blast can have a much higher chance to crit, which means you're going to get a much bigger damage opener. So really good combo here. Definitely take both talents. Next, we have Arcane Instability. That's going to increase your damage done by your spells and your critical strike chance by 3%. Another flat, straightforward talent. Gotta love the Arcane build. It's really straightforward. Like some of these talents, you can just pick and choose and say, I want this, I want this, I want this. There's not a lot of confusion, but definitely a great talent to have. So next things next, we have the bread and butter of the Arcane build, and that is Arcane Power. When activated, your spells deal 20% more damage while costing 20% more mana. Lasts 15 seconds on a 2-minute cooldown. This is your primary cooldown. I do want to note, and I'm pretty sure I noted this either in my Disc Priest talent build or my Power Infusion tier list video. You cannot use, or you cannot have Arcane Power and Power Infusion on you at the same time. If you have Arcane Power on you and a priest tries to cast Power Infusion on you, it'll say a more powerful spell is already active. And if you have Power Infusion on you and you cast Arcane Power is going to override it and cancel it out. So I do want to make note of that. Again, I'm pretty sure I said that in one of those videos, but I just want to reiterate it here. But Arcane Power, you definitely don't skip. Your main cooldown, always take. Over here, we have Arcane Empowerment. This is going to increase the damage of your arcane missiles by a spell amount equal to 45% of your spell power and the damage of your arcane blast by 9% of your spell power. In addition, increases the damage of all party and raid members within 100 yards by 3%. So basically it's giving arcane missiles and arcane blasts a higher coefficient of spell power, so making them hit harder, and gives you some, party and raid utility. So this is kind of like the talent that kind of killed BM, because if you don't know, BM also has a talent called Ferocious Inspiration that does the exact same thing. No, it doesn't increase the damage of Arcane Missiles or Arcane Blast, but it does increase the damage of all party and raid members within 100 yards of the pet by 3%. So this kind of killed them. How? Really, BM's damage ceiling isn't as high as Arcane's, so people ask themselves, okay, why take a BM when I can get the same buff and more damage out of the Arcane Mage? Now, if Arcane didn't have this buff, you probably still see a BM in raid groups just for Ferocious Inspiration, but because Arcane got it now, they kind of like nixed BM Hunters. Sorry, BM Hunters. Moving on down, we have Arcane Flows. This is going to reduce the cooldown of Presence of Mind, Arcane Power, and Invisibility by 30%. And it's going to reduce the cooldown of Evocation by 2 minutes. So basically giving you some CDR for really important spells. Next, we have Mind Mastery. This is going to increase the spell power by 15% of your total intellect. Again, self-explanatory. The more intellect you have, the more spell power you're going to have. Easy cut and dry. Next, we have Missile Barrage. So it gives your Arcane Blast a 40% chance, and your Arcane Barrage, Fireball, Frost Firebolt, and Frostbolt a 20% chance to reduce the channel duration of Arcane Missiles by 2.5 seconds. So it makes it super quick, and reduces the mana cost of it, so it makes it free, and a missile will fire every half second. So this is just a really good Arcane Missile buff. So definitely don't skip this. This is really good. You definitely want to take it. Moving on down, we have Spell Power. This is going to increase the critical strike damage bonus of all spells by 50%. Again, another crit damage modifier. This is why I was saying Arcane's a high octane spec, because things like this can really drive up your damage. But definitely take this. Moving on, we have Netherwind Presence, increasing your spell haste by 6%. Yet another easy to understand baseline talent. One thing you may have noticed is that we do not get the Capstone talent. We don't get Arcane Barrage. That's because Arcane Barrage, when casted, will remove the arcane buff stacks, and you don't want that from Arcane Barrage. It doesn't hit hard enough, and that's just a waste of stacks. But you know what you could use it on, and that would be Arcane Missiles, especially if you have Missile Barrage going. So you definitely don't want to take Arcane Barrage because you're not going to use it. You're definitely going to use it on Arcane Missiles. Let me clear this out. Moving on, quick stop into the fire tree, we have Incineration. This is going to give you a flat 6% crit chance on your Arcane Blast, along with some other spells, but really for Arcane Blast. And then we go into the Frost subspec, and we're going to pick up a few talents here. First being Ice Flows. This is going to reduce the cooldown of Frost Nova, Conical, Ice Block, and Icy Veins by 20%. So having more frequent access to an immunity and another major cooldown is really helpful, so you definitely want to pick up Ice Flows. Over here we have Improved Frostbolt. Now, the thing with Improved Frostbolt, and I guess to a lesser extent, or the same extent, Frostbite, is I think you take these two talents just as a means to an end to get down the tree more. I couldn't really find anything that states that these two talents do anything for your arcane damage, so I don't think they do. I know in TBC, Arcane sometimes uses Frostbolt as kind of filler when you're regenning, but I don't know if that's the case for Wrath, and even if it was, it does. I don't think that sways your choice on picking Improved Frostbolt or Frostbite. So again, just put 2 talent points anywhere you want just to get down the tree. Next, we have Precision. This is going to reduce the mana cost and increase your chance to hit with spells by 3%. So yes, this kind of does the exact same thing as the Arcane Focus talent, except Arcane Focus's mana cost reduction only works on arcane spells. Precision is for all spells, but definitely want to take this. Gives you another 3% hit, making 6% just from coming from talent. So really good. Moving over here, we have Frost Warding. So this is a pretty decent talent too. So increases the armor and resistances given by your Frost armor, Ice armor by 50%. And in addition, your Frost Ward and Fire Ward have a 30% chance to negate warded damage and restore mana equal to the damage caused. So gives you some, you won't take some damage as a chance. You won't have a chance to take some damage, so that's really good. And it'll give some mana return when you do negate the effect, so pretty good on Frost Warding. And lastly, we have Icy Veins, another major cooldown. This is going to increase your spell casting speed by 20% and reduce the spell pushback by 100%. Lasts 20 seconds on a 3-minute cooldown. This is a spell, or a cooldown rather, that can be used with Arcane Power. They don't always line up because this is a 3-minute cooldown, this is a 2-minute cooldown, so you won't always have them lined up, but when you do, you'll be casting super fast and you'll be decimating things. And that's really it for the standardized Arcane spec. Again, Arcane is pretty straightforward. You could probably just go down the tree. Even if you don't watch this video, you can kind of pick and choose what you want just by going down the tree. But yeah, really straightforward. Now let's talk about some glyphs. Alright, so I already got some glyphs lined up for you. The first being Arcane Blast. This is going to increase the damage from your Arcane Blast buff by 3%. So not the actual damage of Arcane Blast itself, but it changes the Arcane Blast buff. So baseline gives 15%. It will instead go to 18% per Arcane Blast. So really good. Next, we have Arcane Missiles. This is going to increase the critical strike damage bonus of your Arcane Missiles by 25%, which is huge. Now, I couldn't find out if this glyph and the Spell Power Talent stacked additively, meaning I don't know if the 25% flatly gets added to the 50%, making it 75%. If it did, that'd be kind of crazy. But even if it doesn't, this glyph is amazing, so you definitely don't want to skip out on this glyph. Next, we have Glyph of Molten Armor. This is going to grant you an additional 20% of your spirit as critical strike rating. Now, I'm pretty sure this glyph does stack additively with the Molten Armor spell. So instead of 35%, you get 55% increased crit. Again, if it doesn't, this is still more spirit converted to crit, which means more stats that you actually want, which means more damage for you. So definitely take Glyph of Molten Armor. The minors are always up to your choice. I chose to take Arcane Intellect and Slowfall. I think these are the most useful of the minor glyphs. So again, if you don't want to pick these, you can pick whatever you want. But that's really it for the standard Arcane build. So now we're going to dive into the first subspec, which is called the Incanters Absorption spec. So here we have the Incanters Absorption build setup, and at first glance you might be seeing that not too much has changed, but you might be asking yourself, what is Incanter's Absorption? So let's go through the talent. So when your Mana Shield, Frost Ward, Fire Ward, or Ice Barrier absorbs damage, your spell damage is increased by 15% of the amount absorbed for 10 seconds. So basically it turns damage taken into DPS for you, which is really good. Now, the usefulness of this build determines how much spell damage you can negate or absorb, and how much spell damage is actually going out in the fight. Ideally, you would want to use this buff, or you want to use to maintain this buff, Frost Ward and Fire Ward. Using Mana Shield might put a strain on your mana pool in general, but if you have an abundance of mana, then you can use Mana Shield and still get the buff all the same. But I think ideally you want to use it on fights that you can game Frost Ward and Fire Ward. Something like Saffron that has a lot of unavoidable frost damage can make really good use of Frost Ward and really high uptime on Incanter's Absorption. Let's talk about some synergies. So Incanter's Absorption has amazing synergy with the Frost Warding talent. That's because the 30% chance to negate warded damage acts as absorbed damage and therefore can proc the Incanter's Absorption talent. So what this means is that you can double dip the Incanter's Absorption duration. Let me explain. So let's go back to Saffron. If you have Frost Ward active, right? Let's say that first tick of Saffron's Frost Aura gets negated by the Frost Warding talent. Now you just got the Incanter's Absorption buff because of the negation. Let's say the second tick actually gets absorbed by Frost Ward. That also gets added to the Incanter's Absorption. And because Incanter's Absorption refreshes and recalculates spell damage, you can kind of double dip with Frost Ward and Fire Ward if you can get negation effects plus real absorb effects. So it can snowball pretty crazy, and you can get a high uptime on Incanter's Absorption. Another synergy that is not really synergy, but it's actually bad for you, is I have the glyphs lined up out here, is Glyph of Frost Ward and Glyph of Fire Ward. The chance to reflect will not proc Incanter's Absorption, so if you should not run these two glyphs if you are running the Incanter's Absorption build setup. I know it's kind of weird that I put them in there to show you not to take them, but that's really what it's for. So do not take Frost Ward or Fire Ward if you are running Incanter's Absorption, because the reflect will not proc the Incanter's Absorption effect. Moving on up the tree, as you can see, I don't have Magic Attunement, I don't have Student of the Mind, and I don't have Arcane Meditation. This is because we needed some talent points to get Incanter's Absorption. What I will say is that you can take 2 talent points out of Arcane Stability. Like I said before, if you have access to a Improved Concentration or a Holy Paladin or just Concentration Aura in general, You can put these 2 talent points in one of these 3, or you can even put it in magic absorption, which can give you a little bit more sustainability. So what's magic absorption? Well, let's max it out really quickly. When maxed out, increases all resistances by 1 per level, so you'll get a max of 80 resistances across the board because max level is 80 in Wrath. And causes all spells you fully resist to restore 2% of your mana. So this is really good when you have to use mana barrier, right? Because you'll be getting some mana back, hopefully, because you're fully resistant. But if you don't need this, you can easily opt to put it in either Magic Attunement or Student of the Mind or Arcane Meditation. I will say this, I think this spec really opens up if you do have an improved CA Holy Paladin. Again, even if you don't and you have regular concentration aura and you just have 95% spell pushback, it's not the end of the world. You could still take 2 talent points and put it where you need it. But again, that choice is up to you. Like I said, I think the spell works best when you can use Frost Ward or Fire Ward and when you have improved CA running on you. But that's really it for Incanters Absorption. It's pretty easy. Like I said, it has a really high ceiling because you can maintain this buff, quite a bit. And if you can maintain the buff quite a bit, you'll see some high numbers. So just depends on how much damage you can absorb and if you can get that Frost Warding negation effect, right? But that's really it for the Incanters Absorption build. Moving on, let's talk about something that's a little bit more niche in my opinion. That would be the Cold Snap build, but let's jump into that. So here we have the Cold Snap build. Now, the reason why I call this build niche is because this is really something that you want to use on like super quick fights. So really fast boss kills and raids, or maybe even dungeons where you can just like reset and just kill bosses and kill trash really quick. But other than those 2 like scenarios, I don't think you'll get much use or much more damage out of the Cold Snap build, not more than what you would get out of the standard build or the Incanters Absorption build. And that's really because in order to reach down to Cold Snap, you got to take a couple of talents that you really don't need, like Ice Shards and Piercing Ice, and you have to lose certain, in my opinion, really important talents like Incineration. So you're losing 6% crit from Incineration. You don't have Arcane Flow, so you lost some CDR on Presence of Mind, Arcane Power, Invisibility, and Evocation. And you don't have one of the optional talents. You don't have Student of the Mind, you don't have Magic Attunement, you don't have Arcane Meditation. So I think that's a lot to sacrifice just to get an extra Icy Veins, in my opinion. And I don't think, and I don't recommend you use this build early on while gearing and stuff like that. This is something to use, in my opinion, if you or your guild, that is, already have something on farm and you're just blowing through things and you're just trying to like get that extra parse and you're really trying to beat some kids up. But other than that, I don't think you use this build for like practical means. And that's really it for the Arcane Mage talent setup. I had a lot of fun making this. When it comes to in-game playing, I haven't spent a lot of time as a mage, so it was really fun, researching and, asking questions in the Discord and talking to people about it. So this was actually really fun. So if you did enjoy the video, please hit that like and subscribe. Let's, get down this long road to 1K, and I'm hoping, crossing fingers, that we can hit 1K by the end of the year. We'll see if that happens. If not, I'm still going to keep rocking. And as always, you guys have been great. I've been Soul, and I'm out. Peace.